We're in Saguenay today, hopping on and off a bright yellow school bus, exploring churches, museums, art galleries, markets, and ending with a sail away. So come along with us.
Good day and welcome to our penultimate stop, which is Saguenay in the Quebec region of Canada. And to get here we had to come up a lovely fjord, but unfortunately I was still asleep when we did that. But hopefully we'll catch some nice scenes as we go out tonight, and we'll be able to bring those to you. Now, it's really cold actually. The temperature has dropped, but we're really blessed with an absolutely gorgeous sunny day. So I think it's about 3 degrees, rising to 11 degrees at some point during the day. Probably the sooner the better. We got woken up, well, not woken up exactly, but we had the joyous sounds of dancing filtering through our patio door at about 8 o'clock this morning, and we had a local group doing a dance on the quay, which was very nice. And there seems to be some local craft shops down there for us to take in when we get off the ship. Saguenay looks like a lot of the towns that we've actually been in Canada. Very typical. There's a few attractions in the town, but I think what we're going to try and do is to see if we can get a boat trip and go a little bit more along the fjord and see what that has to hold. Certainly when I was getting my breakfast earlier on, I had a peep outside the window of the opposite side to us, and the fjord looked really nice. Our cabin where we're docked overlooks the quay, and we have a quite nice town in front of us, but from looking at the guidebooks there isn't a lot here. The main attraction is the fjord itself, but let's see, we'll explore and see what we've got.
Oh, after breakfast in the buffet, I had a traditional American style breakfast while Joanne opted for an egg and fruit. Anyway, we made our way off the gangway and onto the quay. The dancers had gone long ago, but there were a number of stalls and exhibitions of traditional skills by folks in historic garments that were taking place on the quay. It was interesting to watch. This is probably the best welcome we have had on any of the ports that we visited on this cruise. So despite our best laid plans of getting a boat trip up what is one of the most southernmost fjords in the world, and experiencing its dramatic steep glacier-carved rock walls and deep blue water, we failed at the first hurdle. Having quickly made our way to the booking office, we were told there were no boat trips available. They were all pre-booked. Other ports we visited had been several different options in the port for these types of trips. Looks like we're going to have a change of plans today, as there are absolutely no boat trips available on the fjord. Apparently there's only a small number, and those are awarded to the cruise line. So, change of plan, and we're going to do a hop-on, hop-off bus and see where that takes us. So after plan A, we went for our plan B before we finally settled on plan C, a city tour on a hop-on and hop-off bus. The novelty here was that we would be travelling in a repurposed bright yellow school bus which took in 7 different tourist locations across a circular route. The first 2 stops were the longest of the trip and went to locations that we were not particularly interested in, but you have to do them. It was about now that the novelty of riding in a repurposed school bus wore off. We were seated over the rear axle and quickly realised that the suspension was not as refined as we would like. The bench seats were also sized for school children, and we quickly began to appreciate that we had somewhat larger bums than the average kid. The experience was, shall we say, quite jarring and uncomfortable. In fact, one of our members has only just recovered. The first part of the journey followed the bank of the fjord and was interesting to see. After that, it became less so, taking in residential streets with modern buildings, thinly populated farmland areas, and there was also the occasional odd building of interest. So the way that this worked was that we could get on or off of the bus at a predefined stop. We could look at what was going on in that stop, which was normally a tourist place, and then return and get back onto another bus and go on to the next stop. Now you could do the circular trip as many times as you wanted, although I can't really think of an obvious reason why I'd want to do so. However, it was a very reasonable $30, Canadian that is, and the buses came round every 15 minutes, which is not long to wait. There's no guide or narration as you travel along. Someone did pop on briefly at each stop to explain what was at that stop and the things that we might want to see. The first stop we were interested in was in the downtown area, just off of Racine Street. This is the Cathédrale Saint-François-Xavier, overlooking the Saguenay River. It is the third cathedral built on this site, the first two being lost to fire. It opened in 1922 and was built largely on the surviving exterior walls of its predecessor. The exterior walls are granite. This is a durable local stone which has helped the building endure, and it also enabled the walls of the previous cathedral to be used as they survived the fire. Admission was free, and we stepped quietly into the cathedral. Immediately, a wide central aisle drew our eyes forward towards the main altar, inviting us to walk towards it. Above us, the soaring ceilings, supported by elegant columns and sweeping arches, created an uplifting sense of verticality, making the space feel both grand and ethereal. Along the side walls and high in the ceiling, large stained glass windows depict biblical scenes, the life of Christ and various saints, including St. Francois-Xavier, casting colourful lights that shifted throughout the day. Beyond the altar, the domed nave drew the eye upwards. Its frescoes presented a majestic tableau, Christ at the centre, encircled by Mary, Joseph, the Apostles and the Archangel Michael. The art seemed to breathe life into the stone around it, filling the space with a quiet awe and reverence. Everywhere the woodwork spoke of devotion and craftsmanship. Intricate carved crosses, angels and flowing vine patterns adorned the pulpit, bishop's chair and the choir stalls, leading an elegance to the interior. The fine detailing extended to the balustrades and confessional boxes, each element carefully designed to inspire respect. Then, as we left, we spied above the entrance the magnificent pipe organ which this cathedral is known for. Further down the road, and on our way to the river, we spied the type of building I associate with Canada, with a green mansard roof. We carried on down the road to the banks of the Saguenay River, crossing a dual carriageway via a set of traffic lights on our way. The river flows down from Lac Saint-Jean to the St. Lawrence River, a distance of just under 100 miles. It was nice to stand there for a few minutes and take it in before we made our return. Now, it was easier getting here than back as the road had a bit of a gradient. We decided to not go to the nearby shopping area, preferring to get back on the bus, which just arrived as we got to the bus stop. We're making our way to the next drop-off point, the Parc Du Bassin, a calm, scenic park that overlooks the Saguenay River upstream. It's near 3 spots of interest that we wanted to explore. The bus stopped at the entrance to the park, and we could already see the first 2 places that we wanted to visit. The Sacre-Cœur Church stood proud on the top of the hill. Part way up and off to one side on the right was the little White House Museum. The park itself is nothing special, a nice place to relax and chill, and no more. The museum and church were the key reasons that we'd actually come here. At the back of the park and part of the little White House Museum is this lovely set of artificial waterfalls that feed into a pond at the base. The combination of vegetation and large rocks creates an absolutely awesome display. Sitting at the top of the waterfall, surveying the ground below sits the little White House, a truly unique building with some fantastic history. Now, the house was built around 1890, but it's known because during a huge flood in July 1996, one of the worst in Canadian history, where every other house in the neighbourhood was destroyed, this one stayed standing amid the raging waters. After the flood, the rest of the neighbourhood wasn't rebuilt, but the little white house was preserved as a historic landmark, and today it's a museum. Inside there are exhibits about the house's history and the 1996 flood, including models, photos, videos and interpretation panels. What is incredible is that this house is so small, and it's mind-boggling that it survived. We didn't do the exhibition, we looked around the foyer area. There'd been some confusion as we were told that the museum itself was closed, but that was not the case. There was a small gift shop off to one side with the usual assortment of souvenirs. Next up is the Sacré-Cœur Church, which you can see rising majestically ahead of us. We like this hotel that was sat next to the church. Looked really awesome. Perched up high with superb views over the landscape below, this church makes a real statement. It is dedicated to the Sacred Heart of Jesus and was erected around 1905 on the site of a smaller chapel to meet the needs of a growing population attracted by the pulp industry. This is a good example of the French neo-Gothic architecture. I know this as a sign on the board proclaimed it so, telling me that the Gothic architecture uses techniques such as the pointed arch, the rib vault and flying buttress. Bell Tower is one of the highest spires in the city. It took almost 20 years to finish the interior of this church, and it's a typical neo-Gothic interior. It has long central nave which has been flanked by side aisles, and they create a rhythmic series of arches and columns that guide the eyesight towards the altar. And then there's that beautiful high vaulted nave and the three aisles of pews going down towards the altar. Along the walls, some beautiful 1950s stained glass windows. These replaced earlier windows, adding a significant amount of colour and also a more modern design than what we've seen in other churches. On the day that we came, they cast a warm, serene and speckled coloured light into the nave and aisles, creating patterns on the floor, woodwork and stone. Lovely to see and very typical of Gothic-inspired churches. The church's pipe organ has been built by a famous Quebec organ building firm. It was installed in 1938 and it's placed in a rear gallery just above the entrance, typical of many churches as it adds to both the visual and acoustic richness. Most visitors to this church might assume that what they see is all there, but hidden from view behind the altar lies the sacristy, the room traditionally used by clergy to prepare for services. Inside, one discovers a religious heritage museum dedicated to preserving the history of the Bassin neighbourhood and the faith and cultural traditions of the local Catholic community. The museum showcases a variety of religious artefacts and historical objects, including items used in worship, Mass and other sacraments. In this historic 1910 building we found a unique experience amidst a retro nostalgic style interior. This is a general store that harkens back to the old-fashioned shops that were once central to community life. These days it stocks products that are modern and better suited to today's visitors. It was interesting to look around and appreciate the theming and the items that were on sale. We loved the range cooker sat on one side against the wall. It had a deep black polish on it that really contrasted with the goods that were on sale. There was an interesting assortment of goods on sale, from smellies, soap, perfumes, all the way through to toys. This is the last attraction on this stop, so we made our way back to the bus stop to go to our next site, which is the Chicoutimi Pulp Mill. The benefit of getting off and on the bus and having a good look around at the various stops that we make is that your back and bum have a chance to recover from the punishment the school bus inflicts. We're on the site of a historic wood pulp production complex that operated from the late 19th to the early 20th century. This location was ideal near a ready source of dense spruce forests, next to a fast-flowing river whose water provided the hydraulic power for the mill's machinery, and with good access to rail and shipping routes. By the 1920s, it was a significant employer, playing a central role in the local economy. Then demand declined, and following bankruptcy, the mills closed permanently around 1930. The mill's buildings were constructed from natural stone, giving them durability and architectural character, but most of them were demolished. The one we're visiting today used to be the railway repair building. It's now a museum and art gallery. So behind me is an old railway garage built in 1921, which used to serve what used to be on this site, which was a pulp factory. That factory has long gone and was obviously a key resource, using both the water and employing lots of the labour in the village. Immediately outside the restored building is steam locomotive number 15. It once served in the region's railway network, helping to move goods and equipment in support of the pulp mill and other industrial operations. There's also an old pulping drum to one side. Admission was $13.50 Canadian dollars. The museum is housed at the front of the building, and it basically illustrates how the pulp mill operated. Panels and interactive displays explain how spruce logs were turned into mechanical pulp. Models show the layout of the original pulp mill, including the warehouses, workshops, transportation lines, and historic photographs depict workers handling timber and operating machines and how they used to live in the neighbourhood. Volunteers are available to explain more about the operation and what you are seeing. Behind the reception there's a small gift shop, largely unmanned, but it had an interesting collection of various souvenirs and things to purchase. Next up is the first of the temporary art displays. Broue is apparently one of Quebec's most beloved and longest running cult theatrical comedies. It has over 3,300 performances and more than 3 million people came to visit it during its history. The exhibition takes you behind the scenes to explore the sets from the play, as well as the props and costumes worn by the performers, and videos that include reflections from the creators and the artisans. There are around 186 objects on display, with some being donated by the actors themselves. Here you're invited into the world of taverns and their social life, the humour, camaraderie and character dynamics that helped make this play a cultural phenomena in Quebec. Next we stepped into what is my favourite exhibition, the 2025 World Press Photo Contest. It is clear why this is one of the most prestigious annual photojournalism competitions in the world. It seeks out photographs that capture a powerful story in a single unforgettable image, ranging from breaking news and social issues to intimate human experiences and compelling documentary photographs. The exhibition features a carefully curated selection of winning and notable images from across the globe. These are grouped by region and they're all chosen by an independent international jury from tens of thousands of submissions. Each photograph tells a real-world story and they offer windows into moments of conflict, cultural richness, environmental challenges, political events and humanitarian struggles. What made the exhibition so captivating for me is how photographs are able to condense what must be complex narratives into a single frame and use that to evoke empathy, curiosity or reflection in the eyes of the viewer. Each photograph is accompanied by a summary of the moment. The next temporary exhibit is for Jean-Jules Sousy, a distinctive Quebec artist who is known for recycling and repurposing of everyday objects. Using humour, ingenuity and artistic exploration, he transforms them into surprising creations. Now he's probably best known for La Pyramide de Haha, and that was on the first stop of this trip, but it's one of the ones we did not get off at. It's a public art landmark made of traffic signs in La Bay. Nothing is sacred as he transforms tin cans, metal straps, bottle caps, packaging and cardboard, creating small-scale, surreal, playful architectural or layered artworks. There was also an exhibition on the Chekstimi region and another exhibition which we weren't allowed to film. That one was around a hand-painted house, about the same size as the little white house we saw earlier, but every part was painted by an artist. Lovely. There's exhibits from individual artists which are very interesting. There was a photo journalism display showing all of the various photographs that have won photojournalism awards through 2025, I think, and that was absolutely fantastic. I do like looking at the photographs, some really clever composition and how you tell a story with a single photo. Really good. There was a display of what goes on in the local town and some of the history and also some of the current activities. And then I went and looked around 3 different artist displays, which I thoroughly enjoyed as well. I've probably been here for about an hour and a half. Very enjoyable, well recommended. If you want to know, the railway garage was actually built in 1921 originally. So I now need to get back to the bus stop and meet up with the bus to go to my next location, which is probably going to be stop 7, which is the market. The bus journey to stop 7 took just over half an hour. We had plenty of time to get back on board as our ship was not due to depart for another 3 hours. The bus pulled up at a residential street, and on the other side of the road we could see a lovely house in full autumnal scene. On one side was the market and on the other a church. We tossed a coin and decided to cross the road and look at the church first and then go on to the market. When we arrived at the church, it was in the process of being locked up, and the church guide was leaving for the day. It was just after 2 o'clock. So if you want to look inside, then the morning would probably seem to be the best time. This is one of the early stone-built churches of the Saguenay Lac Saint-Jean region. It is dedicated to a Catholic bishop who founded the Redemptorist order. This is a small market, probably less than 10 stores, each of which is a small hut, and they are arranged in a circle. It sells a variety of artisan goods. These were either displayed on a ledge at the front of the hut or sometimes on racks or shelves that were outside. You don't actually go into the hut to make your purchase. And there was a wide variety of different types of pieces. So for example, there was some wooden objects, clothes, pictures, 3D print designs, jewellery and hats. We actually enjoyed looking around, didn't buy anything, but the goods seemed to be quite good quality, and it was interesting to see what was on offer. It's about 500 metres from here back to the cruise terminal on flat terrain, and time passes quickly. There's plenty of time to take in and appreciate the journey. We're soon out of the town. We're walking along Victoria Street back towards the International Cruise Pavilion, an easy stroll. The street has small boutiques and businesses and quiet side roads. It feels a lot less busy as you head towards the water, and there's a relaxed pace to the area. As you get closer to the water, you start to see the magnificent views overlooking the fjord. The space opens up and you really appreciate the expanse of water laid out in front of you, surrounded by the hills in their autumn colours. The International Cruise Pavilion appears ahead near the shoreline, clean and modern against the natural settings. The majestic princess is docked here, adding a sense of scale to the otherwise quiet area. Reaching the pavilion feels like a natural endpoint to the walk, where town, water and travel meet in a quiet, unassuming way. but there's always plenty here to do and to watch. Whether it's watching the helicopter taking off or the seaplanes as they taxi along the water and take to the skies. So we're back at the port. Had a nice little look around. Very nice towns. We went to 2 of them. And now it's back on board. And let's see if we can get ourselves a late lunch or not. The cruise pavilion is large and open, but there were no shops. There's a restaurant area which was never really busy. And to one side there is an information desk with a selection of guidebooks to help you explore the town. In a room behind the information desk is a counter where the excursion operators are housed. We made our way back on the ship and straight up to the buffet where we enjoyed today's special, which was an Italian, although I must admit I was tempted by the burgers. The rest of the afternoon we spent in the cabin and out on the veranda, reading, listening to music, or just taking in the beautiful vistas over the fjord. What a view it is as well. The fjord is quiet but powerful. It's a deep, narrow waterway carved by glaciers with steep cliffs rising sharply on either side. In some places the water lies still, mirroring the cliffs and the sky above. In others you'll find gentle ripples that create shifting shades of blue. The banks are covered in forest, and with Canadian autumn still in full swing, a rich mixture of coloured foliage clings to the rocky slopes, giving the fjord a rugged, natural feel. Seaplanes and helicopters appear tiny against the towering cliffs, emphasising the fjord's vastness and calm. This section opens up slightly and it offers views across the water to the hills stretching into the distance. It's remarkably quiet here, which makes the place feel quite remote, even though the town is nearby. The ship cast off about 5 minutes after the back on board time, which was a lot prompter than the other ports that we've been in. Unfortunately, the sun sets early at this time of the year, so we're unlikely to see much of the fjord as we make our way back along the Saguenay River to the St. Lawrence River, where we will then head towards Quebec. Quebec is our final destination. We have a full day here tomorrow to explore, and then are docked overnight for our final evening before disembarking the following day. This will give us the opportunity to take in anything we have missed, as we have a one-night stay in a hotel before we actually make our way home.
I've now forgotten what I've got.
Vol-au-vent.
A vol-au-vent, not a vol-au-vent, it's a vol-au-vent.
Vol-au-vent.
With lobster, I think, in it. So here goes.
In the bisque.
In a bisque.
In pastry.
Oh, very nice. Oh, nice. With the sauce. Very nice.
And Steve also went for the same.
Tonight we'll be mostly having a bit of roux.
Very nice.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Very nice, lots of flavour. Absolutely gorgeous.
I've got spaghetti carbonara. Thank you.
Great Irish potato planning going on here, because I don't like those potatoes.
I've had it before, it's one of my favourites.
Well, you're not going to have to.
Not as good as mine that I make at home.
I love my, look, what are these?
But very nice.
Steve went for one of his old favourites, a beef Wellington. Very nice. I do love a beef Wellington. And this is a lovely beef Wellington.
Another Merlot.
Really tender.
Santa Helena.
Do you want another Merlot?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I've got a lye cheese dessert, sugar-free.
Okay.
Yes, of course.
Yes. Let's have a look at this.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Look at this. This looks pretty. It's
lovely.
amazing, that one. I just love the way that looks like a piece of apple, or, in my blurry eyesight, a piece of onion. Red onion.
So this is a chocolate cheesecake.
It's just like...
It's obviously a
sometimes
chocolate and hazelnut,
amazing.
and it's absolutely delicious. Really nice. I've also seemed to have acquired a Cointreau souffle,
Nice.
which looks really nice. And now
This
for
is
the
one of the
souffle.
best sugar-free ones I've had all week. Or 10 days. Stunning.
That is really nice. I can recommend the Cointreau souffle. Lovely. Prefer that to the cheesecake, by the way.